Hi everyone, it's Ren here. Hope you're doing well. Welcome, not to my room. This is going to be my new little slogan. Welcome, not to my room. It makes it makes at the same time very little sense because it's kind of dumb, but at the same time, there's nothing more true than this statement. There's many statements in our language that seem to be true, but in fact are not true. We sometimes call them products of power logic. There are statements that are true, but it requires a lot of exploration of words and their meanings and how they kind of are structured together as a meaningful sentence to get a sense of whether the sentence, the statement has truth. If I say welcome not to my room, as boring as the sentence is and as redundant as it seems to be, at least we know it's true because this is not my room. In fact, I think that if this were my room, you'd have some reasons to be a little concerned for me. Because even behind me there, all this is pretty much alcohol. So you've got some Aperol Spritz, you got some... this is very interesting. My friend, she already told me that she wouldn't mind having she doesn't mind having me record videos in her living room and showing it. Although I probably have some comments to make on her specifically, because yesterday I was talking about how I was hesitating regarding her type, and I discussed that with her afterwards. So I have potentially some new pieces of information, so we can continue our investigations together. So look at this. This is an object that I would love to have, because it's got the name of an amazing musician, Björk. And it's like a liqueur from Icelandic birch, it says. I don't know what the percentage is. It's 27.5%. It's this kind of thing. You just want to sort of keep it. You want to keep it because it's just so nice. And there are so many of these little cute things. This is what I'm telling you. This is why my friend is awesome and why she is... so this is Icelandic liquor, salty licorice, 19%. And it has this kind of cute little symbol in the middle. Lots of circles. If you're familiar with me and open monism, you know that I like my circles. And I'm not going to show you every single one of them, but there are lots of these little bottles, and I just think it's adorable. It's cute, and it's very pretty as well. So that house, it's a place where I like to hang out, which is lucky, because I hang out in it a lot. Sarah Jane is mostly working during the week, so I have work too, which is a work of the mind, I suppose, if that can sound unpretentious or pretentious neutral. So I stay here, and the day is it's not almost over, because we had daylight savings recently, which, as disturbing as it can be on one's mood and one's expectations, it's good because it means the day is longer. I can even record videos later in the day these days, and that's fine. It's still relatively bright still. So yeah, Sarah Jane. Well, for those who were courageous enough to watch my video yesterday and stick to the end of it, you probably noticed that I was interrupted at the end by Sarah Jane herself, and you heard her voice. We had a little chat about the MBTI, because she actually genuinely is curious to take the test again to gain more insight into her results and what it means. Many of you have been suggesting that the most likely choice or the most likely type for her is ENFP. So I've been thinking about that. You know, it's true that, well, I mean, one of the things is that she's an FI user, she's more extroverted than your typical INFP, which is what she typed as, or she tested as last time she took the test, but that would have been a year and a half ago. She only took it the one time. So, you know, she has a very busy life, she's always on the go, kind of, you know, she's someone who's, like, something that strikes me is like, if we're having dinner, she gets a call, she answers it while she's having dinner, which I don't think is rude, because, you know, in Ireland that's completely fine. But you would kind of quickly take it, or, you know, like, I just feel like an introvert, sometimes if they have been socializing for a while and they're sitting on the couch, like we were at some point yesterday, like, they're gonna see someone calling on their phone. The first thing they will think is, oh, couldn't that person just send a message? Because if the person sends a message, they'll think, well, I can answer whenever I want. Not quite whenever you want. You can, you know, but you can take your time. You don't have to answer straight away. You can finish watching your film, for instance. Personally, and I'm not ashamed to say it, like, people who try to call me are almost more likely not to reach me than if they text me. Because if there's something I don't like, is to get a call that I have not been warned about. If I know that I'm going to be getting a call at a particular time, I take the call. If I don't know that I'm supposed to get a call, and if I'm able to sort of establish that when I get the call, it's not about, like, an emergency, with which I obviously would take the call. If I can more or less establish that that's not the case, that it's just a call, I often will consciously not take it, and I'll be like, oh, can't be bothered. I admit, maybe you guys are going to tell me this is a complete absence of FEUs. I don't know if it is, but it would be quite interesting for you guys to tell me how you feel about this in the most honest terms possible. You know, as introverts, we often read that, you know, text messages are media, that are very good for us for the reasons that I gave. I find that maybe in the past, when, like, the only option was to call, maybe we introverts were more used to it, and so we were just doing it because that's the only thing we did. And so we were habituated, you know, whereas now that we have the option not to take calls, almost, or a lot of the time we can avoid taking calls, it's also, at least in my case, I feel like it has reduced my tolerance for calls. And Sarah Jane, who's like 39, even when I met her, like, the first time, so that would have been when she was 32 and I was 24, I think. I remember she was a caller, you know, and I would take her calls because she's Sarah Jane, so she, you know, she's a good friend, and so I make an exception for her. And perhaps also at the time was a bit more extroverted. I'm not sure. I probably haven't changed that much. But I used to think, oh, like, she does like her calls, doesn't she? So very much someone who calls. But couldn't it be also because, I mean, this could be really dumb, I'm not sure. Because 39 is not old. I mean, she was born in 79. But I was just thinking, like, didn't she go through a phase of habituation to calling that maybe she never separated herself from? All this over-interpretation is really a defining feature of my life. So, in case you were wondering, I'm not wearing exactly the same clothing that I was yesterday, because that would be disgusting. Although sometimes I do it. So I wear the same sweater twice in a row, something like that. Or if I'm, like, really not moving around the house a lot. It's a difference. It's a different one. It's the blue one. I know that my girlfriend likes it when I wear it. Oh yeah, and this is a wink for her, because I know that she asked me recently if I could wink. It should be at the start of the video, so next time I'll do it at the start if I think about it, but at least I thought about it. So hi. Anyway, Sarah Jane, ENFP. Someone was mentioning, I think it was Vincent, and I hope, Vincent, that you don't mind. I know you've changed your pseudonym since. It's just easier for me to say Vincent than to pronounce your new pseudonym. But you were saying that ENFPs can have high, relatively good or visible SEUs. Is it the role function? Is that what you call this? I probably will need to brush up my study of the shadow functions. You guys know that I'm a little bit skeptical of the shadow functions and their ability, their use in one's ability to predict the behavior of people who identify with this or that type. But I guess it still would be useful to understand why, for example, Vincent, you said that an ENFP could display like SE quite a bit, given that it is like their eighth function. Like in my layman's kind of really ignorance regarding shadow functions sort of self, I think, well, you know, if SE is the eighth function of an ENFP, then there's no way it can be strong. But you seem to be saying that's not the case, so I need to look more into it. So perhaps ENFP. I mean, like, I asked her again last night, and she was pretty definite that she was not an extrovert. But it's true, you guys have mentioned, and I do know that. I have come across these remarks before, that if there is one type of extrovert that has a tendency to identify as introvert, it is ENFPs. In fact, there's a musician who you might know as Grimes. She's currently dating Elon Musk, so maybe she got a lot more visibility now. She's a really good electronic musician, and she took the test. I remember seeing that she took the test at some point. I saw that randomly on Twitter or something, and she got ENFP, and she said, her comment was, "Oh, that's really interesting, and it does kind of capture the way I am, but at the same time, I've always felt like an introvert, so I'm not sure this is correct." So yet another piece of evidence, substantiating evidence, from none other than the great Claire Boucher. So perhaps, I mean, my girlfriends, she did suggest that what I described about Sarah Jane in my last video reminded her of a mature and well-developed and healthy, balanced ISFP that she knew. So perhaps, my love, if you could explain a little bit in the comments what you mean by that, if you could explain it, it would be really interesting, because part of me always wondered, could she be an ISFP? In some ways, she kind of seems like an N, but again, you guys know that it's far from certain. Enough about Sarah Jane. She's working today, so she won't be back before 6:30 or something, meaning that I will not be interrupted by her today. How dare she interrupt me? I mean, this is my house. Well, actually, no, it's her house. I'm only renting here, so maybe I should not be too ungrateful. Well, I wonder if, like, I could wrap up with another little topic that I would have liked to discuss. Yeah, you know, the direction that my videos have followed of late have been, you know, towards, and I mentioned this before, like attributing the psychology, like MBTI psychological model, whatever you want to call it, a more peripheral role in my videos. So I thought maybe I could just talk about this in a little bit more detail in terms of like where my thinking has been sort of going since then with regard to that particular topic. I think that part of it could just be that I need a bit of time away from an exclusive or nearly exclusive focus on these topics in order to regain the stamina, the energy, the vital energy to throw myself into videos on INFJ stuff or on MBTI stuff. I think that, you know, I can definitely, and I will definitely make some more stuff on that. It's just that, and these are the thoughts that I just mentioned there. Like, I've been thinking, you know, there is a sense in which the model is very interesting, and it is how I kind of built my subscriber base. Like, I've over 2,000 followers now, And I developed my subscriber base mainly through making videos on MBTI. My videos on philosophy, I love them. Well, I love them. I love philosophy, and I did put some effort and love into them. They didn't earn me as much traction, probably because the philosophy community is not this. It's nowhere near as tight knit. It's probably bigger in terms of its absolute numbers, but it's not as tight knit. So it's harder, way harder when you make a philosophy video to attract attention. You know, it's very hard to, never mind say something new, but even like find new topics to talk about that have not really been covered. Whereas I feel like for some of the INFJ stuff that I have made in the last few months, you know, like there's one video that I made called the INFJ and Charisma that I think is getting, it's still like making views like every day, not a lot, but it's continuing to gain views every day, probably because there are not many videos that are dedicated to that. Even if you make a video on the INFJ stare, which is like one of the most common things that people like seem to think about when they think about INFJs, you know, I made a video on the INFJ stare, and like if I type INFJ stare in YouTube, my video will be on the first page. I mean, like how, even if you make a video on a quite specific topic in philosophy, you will not be on the first page of YouTube, except if you're lucky, or, you know, like the videos on YouTube for which I have had some success are videos that I shared on Reddit, our philosophy on Reddit, subreddit on philosophy, and I was lucky to just gain traction because I got some upvotes early, and so my video was like on top of the page for sometimes up to a day, which is great, but it's always been quite volatile, you know, the success rate on Reddit, and I tend to not really do that so much anymore, because maybe this is my Enneagram 4 side, but I feel like it's not that part of it is cheating, but I feel like there's something I don't like about sharing my stuff on Reddit, because I usually find that like 2/3 to 3/4 of the comments are vapid, insulting sometimes, really just not instructive, and there's a small portion that is worth it. But it's just, you have to go through, just like people, like the anonymity, the anonymity of Reddit, I find is worse than on YouTube. At least that's what I experienced, you know. Probably also because they're just faced with me, and like they look at it. I just, there's something kind of dark. I don't know. I do use Reddit for certain things, but I don't feel like I have to, you know, post on it anymore. Even though it would progress my channel faster probably if I did, but the subscribers I would get from it were probably, for the most part, I mean, there are probably some that are still there up to this day, and I'm grateful to them, but I'd say the majority of them are gone because my channel has not really gone in the direction that they were expecting, and or their attention span tends to be more limited. They tend to not enjoy rambling stuff, I think. They're just going to be more demanding of their time not being wasted, which is kind of the opposite of my approach. My approach is more along the lines of, please be ready to waste a bit of time. Maybe you'll hear an interesting perspective at some point in my various wafflings and ramblings and meanderings. And so, you know, with the INFJ stuff and the MBTI stuff, but let's be honest with ourselves, you know, it's mostly the INFJ stuff that has made my, you know, my numbers go up ever so slightly, and I like that. I feel like because the community is quite INFJ oriented, it would not be completely fair to the subscribers to stop making videos on that. Obviously, if I don't feel it in me, feeling like it would be unfair would be no use, because if I don't really feel it in me, if I lack the drive for making videos on INFJs anymore, I will inevitably make videos that are a bit more tepid, whose content is not as exciting, and I don't want that. So I think it's good if I sort of like recalibrate for now, and if I sort of try to get a bit of distance to sort of continue seeing where I want the channel to go, in the same way that I kind of want my at the meta level, you know, my life to go, where I want my life to go. And so I do think that it would be cool if like the whole of me could be featured more and more rather than the INFJ Ren, if you like, which is what I'm doing these days essentially. Sometimes as the philosopher Ren, sometimes as the typist Ren, sometimes as whatever, as the idiot or silly Ren. It's probably going to remain that way, because when I look at certain channels, like INFJ channels, and I'm like, oh, like they've been around for years and they still make videos on like INFJ and this, and it's not something that I could do, you know, like, and in that sense I relate quite a bit to Frank James, the way that's now, like, he's making a lot of videos that are much more general, and he's continuing to grow his subscriber base because he's really good. You know, the video on empath that he made today, I think, is really great. So if anything, you know, he could provide me with a kind of inspiration in terms of a path to follow from making mostly INFJ oriented videos to making broader videos that have an INFJ component for some of them. And of course, if there is like a video that I could make where I think that I could make some interesting insights that have to do with INFJ specifically in relation to a theme, I will do so. But it just doesn't really, I have not, you know, I have not experienced that kind of dawning on me, an idea dawning on me like that in a while. So remember, guys, you can drop a comment to give me some inspiration too. And I know that one of our friends, one of the friends of the channel is INTJ, commented very recently on one of my videos asking if I could make a video on INTJs. I've never done that, so I owe it to INTJ. So I think that we should expect within the next couple of weeks something on INTJs. Anyway, guys, it's been too long. See you soon. I hope you enjoyed the video and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. See ya.